Massive, megalithic structures built thousands of years ago. Advanced engineering knowledge that defies conventional explanation. And a nearly identical architectural style found all over the world. For more than a decade, Ancient Aliens has traveled the globe to explore the most incredible pyramids ever discovered. Now, we're going to visit the top 10 pyramid sites that just may hold the proof that Earth has been visited by extraterrestrials.
Pyramids are some of the most mysterious ancient structures on the planet. And while they are most often associated with Egypt, they can actually be found all around the world. But are they merely incredible feats of engineering? Or could they be direct evidence of our extraterrestrial ancestors? When I think of all the amazing pyramid sites we've investigated on Ancient Aliens, one of the most compelling is a structure in modern-day Mexico that was actually designed to commemorate an otherworldly visitation. At number 10 on our list of the top 10 pyramid sites, El Castillo.
The Yucatan Peninsula, Mexico. Hidden in the dense jungle lies the ancient Mayan city of Chichen Itza, and standing at its center is a massive step pyramid believed to have been built sometime between the 9th and 12th centuries AD, known today as El Castillo. Made of limestone blocks and standing almost 100 feet tall, the pyramid is thought to represent a calendar, with each of its 18 terraces commemorating a month in the Mayan year. But its most interesting feature can be found on the massive central staircase.
Castillo is a stepped pyramid with some outward radiating staircases on each of the sides of the building. And these staircases have big, high balustrades on them. And at the base of the balustrade are these big carved snake heads carved in stone.
El Castillo was built to venerate the Mayan god known as Kukulkan, or the feathered serpent.
There were traditions in ancient Mexico of a great teacher arriving on the Gulf Coast. He was said to be Kukulkan, which translates as the plumed or feathered serpent. When he arrived, he brought with him the arts of civilization. He taught astronomy. He created the first calendar. He also taught agriculture. And eventually he left, promising to return. And he was often depicted as a human being as well.
Kukulkan is depicted in serpent form on either side of the central staircase of El Castillo. Twice a year, during sunset and sunrise, an optical illusion appears on these stairs.
Every year, on the 23rd of March, you see, when the sun is going up, some lights and shadows, like triangles, climbing down the stairway, exactly the stairway where his head is on. And on the 21st of September, you see the opposite, Kukulkan disappears.
What we have here is a visual rendition of the descent of Kukulkan, the descent of extraterrestrials visiting this pyramid structure known as El Castillo.
You wonder, perhaps a craft landed here, and this light shadow effect of a serpent making its way descending down the staircase and then emerging through a serpent head is a recollection of that original event.
If you leave Chichen Itza and travel 900 miles due west through the jungles of Mexico, you'll find another incredible site known as Teotihuacan. 3 massive pyramids stand at the center of this temple complex that have a direct connection to the stars. At number 9, the pyramids of Teotihuacan.
Central Mexico, just 35 miles northeast of Mexico City, lies an ancient complex dating back to at least the 1st century AD. The site covers an area of 7 square miles and was once the largest city in Mesoamerica, with a population of over 150,000.
The city of Teotihuacan was the largest and most powerful city that Mesoamerica ever saw. at the city core, which is the Avenue of the Dead, the first big, long, straight road. They build the Pyramid of the Sun and the Pyramid of the Moon. Both of those are gigantic pyramids. And also on the Avenue of the Dead is the Temple of Quetzalcoatl.
While the origins of the site have left archaeologists baffled, the Aztecs, who occupied the area around 1400 AD, are credited with giving it the name Teotihuacan.
The name Teotihuacan means birthplace of the gods. And the Aztecs believed that the gods themselves were born there at Teotihuacan. And the Aztecs talk about the many gods coming down to earth and creating humans.
If you have stories of people descending from the sky, and our ancestors also called them the gods, you have to wonder, well, who or what did they mean when they said the so-called gods? Were our ancestors visited by flesh and blood extraterrestrials whom our ancestors thought were divine in origin when they never were?
Do the pyramids of Teotihuacan hold secrets of extraterrestrial visitation? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and they believe that the pyramids standing at the center of the city point directly to the origins of these visitors, the constellation of Orion.
The Temple of the Sun, the Temple of the Moon, and the Temple of Quetzalcoatl are in the same layout as Orion's belt, and this is not coincidental. The Mayans are very specific about Orion's belt. They say it is a point of creation. It is said that in 3114 BC, the gods came from Orion's belt to Earth, and this occurred in Teotihuacan.
Teotihuacan, despite its size, has no hieroglyphs whatsoever. There are other cultures in Mesoamerica that were using writing systems. There's nothing like that at Teotihuacan. So we don't really have a clear history of what happened at Teotihuacan. In many ways, Teotihuacan is an enigma.
The next site on our list was home to a prolific culture that constructed over 250 pyramids more than 600 years ago. But what's most amazing to me is that the ancient people who built these incredible structures claimed that they received help from otherworldly beings. Number 8, the Sican Pyramids of Peru.
The Lambayeque Valley, northern Peru, 1988. Explorer Thor Heyerdahl investigates what appears to be an area of large earthen hills, but soon discovers that these hills are, in fact, massive adobe brick pyramids, severely eroded over the centuries.
This was the site of a culture called the Sican, and these people, who rose about 750 AD, seem to be absolutely obsessed with the creation of pyramids. In fact, they created as many as 250 within this valley alone. And in one particular town, they created 26.
According to mainstream historians, the Sican people mysteriously disappeared in 1375. And although there were no written records left behind to explain why they were obsessed with building pyramids, ancient astronaut theorists say clues may be found by examining the multiple images of birdmen that archaeologists have discovered inside one of the structures.
The Birdman image is something that's iconic of depicting someone who can come from the sky. So these glyphs that are seen on the walls of these structures are particularly interesting.
Gods depicted as half bird and half man were worshipped by many pyramid-building civilizations in the ancient world, including the Egyptians, the Mayans, the Aztecs, and even the Sumerians, who built pyramid-like structures called ziggurats as much as 6,000 years ago.
You have to wonder if these birdmen aren't extraterrestrials coming to Peru and instructing the people on building these pyramids.
Many of the pyramids we've investigated on ancient aliens were constructed so long ago, no written records exist to explain who built them or why. But the pyramid builders at one location in Guatemala actually carved a story of an otherworldly visitation in stone. Number 7 on our countdown of the top 10 pyramid sites, El Mirador.
Northern Guatemala, 1979. Western archaeologists began excavation of a site that was mysteriously abandoned in 150 BC, known as El Mirador. It is not only the oldest Mayan city, but the largest, covering more than 14 square miles.
The central part of El Mirador has 2 gigantic pyramids that are connected by a big causeway in between them. One's called El Tigre, the other one's called La Danta. La Danta is 70 meters tall. That's one of the tallest in the entire world. And it's so massive that when you get to the top of its first basal platform, there's enough space where they put 3 more pyramids in a triad form on top of it.
But perhaps even more intriguing than the size and scope of the pyramids at El Mirador is an ancient stucco facade that was found between them, which according to ancient astronaut theorists provides an important clue about the origins of these structures.
The archaeologists at El Mirador were investigating the causeways and the aqueducts between the 2 big pyramids. They came upon a stucco facade that showed figures floating in the air. The archaeologists interpret them as the hero twins from the Popol Vuh. Now, the Popol Vuh is foundational to Maya civilization and life, as foundational as the Bible is to Christianity. The story of the Popol Vuh really centers around 2 boys, a pair of twins they call the hero twins, Hunahpu and Xibalenque. And they battle with the lords of death, and they make the world safe for creation, us, to occur.
According to the Popol Vuh, this battle didn't take place on Earth, but in a mysterious realm called Xibalba.
In Maya, the word Xibalba means the underworld, but some have suggested that the word Xibalba doesn't necessarily mean underworld, but the Milky Way. If you look at that carving, the guy is clearly wearing a helmet and he has this backpack and he's actually floating in space, or he's descending from the sky.
You have what seemed to be like some kind of helmet. Could these stone carvings be depictions of ancient astronauts? And you have to wonder if this pyramid isn't some kind of landing site for extraterrestrial craft.
You might be surprised to learn that one of the oldest pyramidal structures on Earth is in a place that has never been associated with pyramids, my own ancestral homeland of Greece. Number 6 on our countdown, the Pyramid of Ellinikon.
Argos, Greece. Just outside this ancient city stands a mysterious stone structure known as the Pyramid of Hellinikon. It is the only pyramid in Europe recognized by mainstream archaeologists.
The Pyramid of Hellinikon is quite small. It's maybe only 23 feet by 30 feet by maybe 12 feet tall, but it's incredibly interesting. Some people suggest that it was maybe a watchtower or a guard tower or a small garrison. We don't really know what it was for, what its purpose was, and even more controversial is the dating of it.
The Pyramid of Ellinikon is one of the most enigmatic ancient structures on planet Earth. Why? Because according to some archaeological research, it dates to before the Great Pyramid at Giza.
In 1995, scientists working at the Academy of Athens dated samples from the site using a new and experimental method called optical thermoluminescence. The results suggest that the pyramid was built around 2730 BC, roughly 2,000 years before the rise of the Greek Empire.
This was a structure that is very mysterious. It was constructed by a completely unknown culture. We know almost nothing about it. And what we do know, though, is that there were several of these structures around. So who built them and what happened to them?
There were 15 other pyramids like this found in the area. Most of these are now completely destroyed. So we have to question who really built this.
When you think of pyramids, you think of Egypt, you think of Central America, you think of India, but pyramids in Greece? we have to ask the question, why has that shape been with us for such a long time? And I think that the knowledge for building these megalithic structures was imparted by the so-called gods, who were misinterpreted flesh and blood extraterrestrials who visited Earth a long time ago. We're nearly halfway through our countdown of the top 10 pyramid sites featured on Ancient Aliens. In 2018, I traveled to Egypt and visited the next location on our list, which was designed by a remarkable individual who was said to have a profound connection to the stars. At number 5, the Step Pyramid of Djoser.
Saqqara, Egypt. Located just 15 miles south of the Giza Plateau, is an ancient burial ground of Egyptian royalty. Among the many tombs stands what mainstream archaeologists suggest is the oldest pyramid in Egypt, the Step Pyramid of King Djoser.
The Step Pyramid at Saqqara is known as the Stairway to Heaven. The complex is vast. It's about 40 acres, entirely walled in. There's a 30-foot wall with 13 false doors. You only get in if you know where the right door is.
Mainstream archaeologists suggest the pyramid was built as a tomb for King Djoser. But like all other Egyptian pyramids, there is no credible evidence that a body was ever entombed there. In April 2018, ancient astronaut theorist Georgios Souklos traveled to the Djoser pyramid with Egyptologist Rami Rahmani to get an up-close look at the mysterious site.
Now, this pyramid is 5,000 years old.
That's amazing. Did they ever find a mummy in there?
No, they never found an actual mummy in there, but they found statues, and there is a statue next to it, still there, of King Djoser. It's a human life-size statue.
Okay. And how many chambers are inside this pyramid?
There are a couple of chambers, but the pyramid is such a maze to go in and out from that they have not discovered everything inside yet, because it's not the safest place to be now.
While the Djoser pyramid has been weathered by time, mainstream archaeologists believe when it was built in the 27th century BC, it was the most impressive structure in Egypt. The six-tier, four-sided structure originally stood 205 feet tall, with a base measuring 358 feet by 397 feet. And unlike other buildings of the time that were constructed entirely from mud bricks, the Djoser pyramid was built using 11.6 million cubic feet of stone and clay, and it was covered in polished limestone, most of which is gone today.
In the text that we can read about Djoser, does he mention at all how he was inspired to build this?
It was one brilliant man. That man was called Imhotep.
Okay.
Who in history came out of nowhere. He was the designer and engineer of that pyramid.
What does Imhotep actually mean?
It means, I know you're gonna like this, it means, I come in peace.
Oh, really? That's very interesting. So the extraterrestrial greeting, so to speak.
Yes. He showed up into the life of the king out of nowhere, and then ascended into position so quickly, which is very uncommon in ancient Egypt.
What does that mean? What do you mean out of nowhere? Did he drop from the sky, or did he come from another land?
In Egyptian history, you can normally trace every position back to their parents, but Imhotep, nothing.
Imhotep rose to the incredible status as the vizier or wizard to the pharaoh. This is where we get that word wizard from, vizier. There are great mysteries about who Imhotep was, where he came from.
He had an incredible knowledge of medicine. He had an understanding of blood circulation. He did the first dentistry, may even have performed operations. He was also an astronomer, had an incredible knowledge of the stars. But most incredible of all is the fact that it said that the knowledge of how to create the earliest pyramids actually came from a text that fell from the sky out of nowhere and came into the hands of Imhotep.
What's fascinating is the depictions of him. He looks like he's got this oversized head. He's got strange-looking hands. He almost looks non-human.
Do we know how long he lived?
That is also a mystery. We don't know how he died, but he was buried in a tomb. And that tomb was around here in Saqqara. The tomb Imhotep has never been found.
So far, right?
So far. But look around you, the desert is massive. When the tomb of Imhotep is discovered, it will be the discovery of this century.
Ancient astronaut theorists are hopeful that if the tomb of Imhotep is ever discovered, it might be found to contain the remains of an otherworldly visitor, but perhaps even more compelling evidence of an extraterrestrial connection to ancient pyramids can be found with a series of hidden structures in China that, according to some researchers, may hold remnants of alien technology.
China is a treasure trove for the ancient astronaut theory. Its mythology is rich in stories of otherworldly beings and is home to some truly incredible relics. But what many people don't know is that China is also home to dozens of pyramids, all of which were completely unknown to the outside world until the 1940s. At number 4 on our countdown, the hidden pyramids of China.
Shaanxi Province, China, 1945. U.S. Army Air Corps pilot James Gaussman is transporting military supplies from India. While flying over a rural valley, he spots a mysterious structure.
One of the most unusual stories of pyramids came out of World War II. The story is of an American pilot who was flying the Burma Hump over to Chongqing in central China. And what he claimed he saw was a huge pyramid in the valley with a gigantic crystal capstone on the top of it. He was so amazed by this huge pyramid in this remote valley that he flew around it once with his plane. This pyramid has never, ever been discovered since then.
2 years later, another U.S. aviator, Colonel Maurice Sheehan, spotted what appeared to be a second pyramid in the area.
Colonel Maurice Sheehan looks down and he sees a giant pyramid that he says is larger than the Great Pyramid of Giza. He reports this to the New York Times and it causes a sensation.
Until then, no pyramids had ever been found in China, but in the years that followed, more than 30 pyramidal structures have been discovered throughout the region, many of which have become covered in vegetation. But perhaps the area's most mysterious pyramidal structure can be found in the city of Xi'an, standing 26 feet tall and dating back 1,500 years. It is made from compressed earth and known as the Altar of Heaven.
From the beginning, Chinese mythology is linked to the universe and to the extraterrestrials. All the Chinese kings communicated with the so-called gods, which in reality were extraterrestrials, on a so-called altar of heaven.
When we step aside from the standard theory that the pyramids were used as tombs, this pyramid is very interesting because of its shape. On the outside, there's a large ramp that leads up to a platform. It's very possible that this pyramid was actually some type of ancient landing source or a landing pad.
The same stone structure with different ring about the main altar we find in Peru over the city of Sacsayhuamans. And the rulers of the Inca were of course again the descendants from heaven, like in China.
So one has to ask the question, who was the architect? Could it be that the architect was none other than an extraterrestrial giving this knowledge to our ancestors?
Is it possible that the mysterious pyramidal structures recently found in China were used by ancient rulers to connect with otherworldly beings? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and suggest further evidence can be found at another pyramid site roughly 500 miles west in the province of Qinghai, on a remote mountain called Mount Baigong.
When you go to Mount Baigong, what you find is a huge mountain with what appears to be an artificial pyramid with 3 triangular entrances going inside this mountain pyramid. And inside are all of these metallic pipes. The floor of these caves are littered with metallic parts.
It's like this was some kind of base.
Could it be that the strange metallic pipes found within this pyramidal structure have served a technological function? Ancient astronaut theorists believe Mount Baigong could be connected to ancient Chinese stories of a magical place called Kunlun Mountain.
In Chinese mythology, the Kunlun Mountain was said to be the center of the earth. And it was supposedly a huge pillar of jade and jasper and precious gems that reached up into the sky.
Mount Kunlun is a mythical mountain that is an axis mundi, which is a central pillar around which the entire universe revolves. This is a connector between Earth and the rest of the universe. It's where celestial beings can communicate with earthly beings.
You have to wonder if Mount Baigong is not this mythical Kunlun mountain that was some kind of extraterrestrial base that spanned Earth and the stars.
Could these pyramid sites in China serve a similar function to other pyramids found around the world? And might they have been inspired by extraterrestrial encounters? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and suggest further evidence that the ancient pyramid builders were influenced by other worldly beings can be found at a mysterious site in Indonesia that's hiding a massive prehistoric structure.
High in the mountains of Indonesia, a pyramid has been discovered that is known for certain to be over 10,000 years old. Number 3 on our countdown of the top 10 pyramid sites, Gunung Padang.
Western Java, Indonesia, 2013. The Indonesian government sponsors an excavation to explore what might be hidden beneath the layers of dirt and rubble at a site known as Gunung Padang, or Mountain of Light. They uncover incredible evidence revealing a 300-foot tall step pyramid dating back at least 10,000 years.
Gunung Padang is made of millions of tons of basalt that has been piled up into a huge mountain, which is also riddled with strange chambers and tunnels.
The people who constructed Gunung Padang built rectangular enclosures, rock mounds, stairways, and although the outer monument that we see today probably only dates to about 600 BC, we now know that beneath this is further structures of a much earlier date. And indeed, and that has given dating evidence that suggests that there was human activity there as early as 25,000 BC.
According to geologists, 20,000 years ago, this area of Java was not an isolated island, but the southernmost part of a subcontinent known as Sundaland. This has led some researchers to speculate that Gunung Padang, with its high elevation, could have been at the pinnacle of a civilization that disappeared sometime around 10,000 BC, when melting ice caps flooded the region and turned it into the series of islands it is today. But if true, just who was this mysterious culture capable of building a 300-foot tall pyramid?
In Indonesian star lore, there's a constellation of particular interest. They call it Bintang Biduk. We call it Ursa Major. It is thought that it is the shape of a boat and that the original craft, the original star ship carrying the people, came from this place to their land. Their houses, the longhouses, the community structures are built in the shape of a boat, always facing northward in honor of the place of their origins. These star travelers are said to have started the original royal family. The name of the people, Toraja, means those who come from the stars.
Might the builders of the massive pyramid at Gunung Padang have been the star travelers of local legends? For ancient astronaut theorists, the answer is a resounding yes.
Indonesian archaeologists have no idea who would have built this, how they could have built it,
what its purpose was. And in fact, many of them would say, yes, this was built by the ancient gods for some purpose that we don't know.
While the structure at Gunung Padang has been overcome by nature, just 300 miles east on the island of Java is an extraordinary pyramid that remains almost perfectly intact. The number 2 site on our countdown, the Temple of Borobudur.
Magelang, Indonesia, located on the island of Java, is the world's largest Buddhist monument, the Borobudur Temple. Built during the 8th and 9th centuries AD, this religious structure consists of 6 rectangular terraces, topped by 3 concentric circular terraces, creating a unique pyramid design.
Borobudur is definitely not an obvious pyramid, but it is. It is a stepped pyramid on top of which have been built structures.
The Borobudur Temple is known as a shrine, but also a place of pilgrimage where people start at the base and work their way up to the top, which they theorize is like reaching nirvana.
Many of the Buddhist temple architecture, stupa architecture, they're based on all these number formulas. For example, Borobudur was created based on mandala. Mandala is a pictorial representation of the universe. And then mandala is based on 72 numbers.
Borobudur's 9 platforms combine to create a perfect Buddhist mandala when viewed directly overhead. Researchers question why and how the builders would create such an intricate religious symbol that can only be viewed from the air. But according to ancient astronaut theorists, the answer can be found on top of the pyramid, where there are 72 bell-shaped structures known as stupas, each housing a seated statue of Buddha.
Buddha is depicted as sitting inside of these small stupas. But it looks like Buddha is flying a flying saucer at Borobudur. That's the obvious thing you think of when you see this. And so is this really how the Buddhists even think of Buddha themselves, as someone who arrives in a disc-shaped craft like an extraterrestrial?
Each stupa, in my opinion, represents a type of flying craft, because stupa actually means celestial chariot, way with which to reach the celestial realm. The journey didn't happen in their heads. It wasn't something ethereal. It wasn't something spiritual. It happened. Extraterrestrial contact took place in Indonesia thousands of years ago. We finally reached number 1 on our countdown of the top 10 pyramid sites. And if you're a fan of Ancient Aliens, I'm sure you guessed this one right from the start. Number 1 on our list, the Giza Plateau.
On the western coast of the Nile River in Egypt is a limestone plateau called Giza. Here stand the 3 most mysterious and sophisticated pyramids ever constructed on Earth. The massive structures are engineered to near perfection and are believed by many to have been intentionally placed to align with the 3 belt stars of the Orion constellation. But of greatest significance to ancient astronaut theorists is the largest of the 3, the Great Pyramid. This enormous structure stands 480 feet tall and was built from more than 2 million limestone blocks, each weighing thousands of pounds. The construction of the Great Pyramid was an engineering feat that remains unmatched to this day.
The Great Pyramid of Giza covers 13 acres. The precision of this building exceeds anything that we require of builders today. For instance, the area over 13 acres was leveled within 7/8 of an inch. That's about the thickness of a thumbnail. But that's not all. The casing stones are filled with some kind of mysterious cement that nobody's been able to figure out what the formula is. This is not the work of primitive people.
Oftentimes, we throw around the words awesome or monumental, and we don't really think about these words, but when you stand in front of the Great Pyramid, the word awesome is in fact true.
It's the most marvelous ancient structure in the world. What's inside the Great Pyramid of Giza is absolutely mind-boggling. You look at a beautiful, perfect tunnel with perfectly smooth walls. and a vaulted ceiling that rises all the way up. And there are shafts, tunnels, and the architecture and the way it was built is a mystery till today.
According to most Egyptologists, this miracle of engineering was constructed during a 20-year period by order of the pharaoh Khufu, sometime around 2500 BC. But many experts claim this dating is based on highly questionable data, and ancient astronaut theorists suggest the origins of the 3 pyramids at Giza are far more profound.
Archaeologists and Egyptologists claim that they were tombs for the pharaohs, and yet no Egyptian pharaoh was ever found in a pyramid in Egypt. We have found the mummies of many Egyptian pharaohs, but they're found in vaults deep underground at the Valley of the Kings in Luxor, hundreds of miles away from the pyramids. The pyramids have no real explanation of what their purpose was.
When you look at a Great Pyramid as a schematic, for me it looks like a machine. Well, if that's the case, what did this machine do? I propose that the Egyptians built the Great Pyramid to be a power plant. And the pyramids were actually geomechanical devices. In other words, they were attached to the earth. They were tuned to vibrate with the frequencies of the earth, and they converted the energies of the earth into electromagnetic energy.
Was the pyramid site at Giza designed as an ancient power plant? Perhaps advances in technology will soon shed new light on the origins of these mysterious structures.
Archaeology is rooted in interpretation, just like the ancient astronaut theory. I'm still of the personal opinion that the Great Pyramid complex dates to a time when the gods walked among humans. Something extraordinary happened right here in ancient Egypt, perhaps under the tutelage of extraterrestrials, teachers from another star system. The pyramids of the Giza Plateau will never cease to amaze and inspire. But at each pyramidal site we've investigated, we found clues that point to otherworldly visitations. Could these extraordinary structures hold the keys to unlocking the truth about our extraterrestrial origins?